The stars were cold and quiet in the Orion sector. 5 small ships moved slowly through the darkness. They were not warships. They were colony vessels. Simple transports carrying families, farmers, teachers, and dreamers. 2,000 humans who wanted to start a new life on a planet called New Eden. Stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the hopeful Dawn. She was 32 years old with tired eyes and strong hands. She had spent 3 years planning this journey. 3 years of paperwork, meetings, and sleepless nights. Now they were so close. New Eden was only 2 days away. Her younger brother stood next to her. He was the fleet's communication officer. He was also the person who made laugh when things got too serious. Right now, he was not laughing. "Sister," he said quietly, "we have a problem." Looked at the scanner screen. Her heart dropped into her stomach. 40 ships had appeared around them. They came from nowhere. One moment the space was empty. The next moment they were surrounded. The ships were large and covered with weapons. Their hulls were dark purple, and their design was sharp and angry. Whispered. Everyone on the bridge went silent. The Empire was known across the galaxy. They were conquerors. They believed they were the greatest species in existence. They looked down on everyone else, especially humans. To them, humans were weak, small, and unimportant. A transmission light blinked on the console. Someone was calling them. "Should I answer?" asked. Took a deep breath. "Yes, let's hear what they want." The main screen flickered and a face appeared. He had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He wore a military uniform covered with medals and symbols of rank. His expression was one of complete disgust, like he had just smelled something rotten. "I am Admiral of the Imperial Fleet," he said. His voice was deep and full of pride. "You are in space. Your tiny ships have crossed our border without permission." Stepped forward. "Admiral, I am leader of this colony fleet. We apologize for any confusion. Our charts showed this area as neutral territory. We mean no disrespect. We are simply passing through to reach our destination." Admiral laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. It was the laugh of someone who enjoyed the fear of others. "Neutral territory," he repeated. "This space belongs to the Empire. Everything you can see belongs to us, including your pathetic little ships." Kept her voice calm. "We have no weapons, Admiral. We are civilians, families, children. We pose no threat to your empire." "Threat?" laughed again. "You think we are afraid of you? Look at your fleet. 5 ships. 5 tiny, weak human ships. My smallest patrol vessel could destroy all of you in seconds." The other on his bridge laughed with him. They pointed at their screens and made jokes about the human ships. One of them said the ships looked like toys. Another said they had seen garbage barges with better armor. Clenched his fists at his side. Could see the anger in his eyes, but he stayed quiet. "What do you want from us, Admiral?" asked. Leaned forward. His 4 eyes stared at her through the screen. "I want your cargo. I want your ships. I want your people to kneel and beg for their lives. The Empire takes what it wants, human, and right now I want everything you have." Felt fear rising in her chest, but she did not show it. "And if we refuse? Then I will demonstrate what happens to species that refuse the Empire." The screen behind changed to show a planet. It was burning. Cities were in ruins. Ships were being shot out of the sky. Millions of beings were dying as weapons rained down from above. "The refused," said calmly. "They do not exist anymore. The Bellum refused. They are gone. The refused. Now their planet is a mining colony." He smiled with his terrible teeth. "Would you like New Eden to join that list?" His blood ran cold. He knew about New Eden. He knew where they were going. "You have 1 hour to surrender your ships and prepare for boarding," continued. "Use this time wisely. Pray to whatever gods you humans believe in. Say goodbye to each other. Make peace with your short lives." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Then a young officer named broke the silence. "What do we do?" she asked. Her voice was shaking. Turned to face her crew. There were 7 people on the bridge, 7 people looking at her for answers. Behind them in the other parts of the ship were 400 colonists, families who trusted her to keep them safe. She said, "Send a distress signal, all frequencies. Contact the Terran Defense Network." Nodded and moved to his station. His fingers flew across the console. "Signal sent, but we are very far from any Terran military base. The nearest ship could be days away." "I know," said, "but we have to try." The next few minutes were filled with activity. Ordered all ships in the fleet to prepare for emergency procedures. Families were moved to the inner sections of the ships where the walls were thickest. Food and water were distributed. Medical teams were put on standby. Through the windows they could see the ships slowly moving closer. They were like sharks circling wounded prey, taking their time, enjoying the hunt. Admiral appeared on their screens again after 30 minutes. This time, he was not alone. There were camera drones flying around him, recording everything. "People of the galaxy," he announced with a grand gesture, "today you will witness the power of the Empire. Before you is a human colony fleet. 5 ships, 2,000 souls. They thought they could travel through our space without consequences. They were wrong." He pointed at the image of the human fleet on his tactical display. "Look at them. This is what humanity sends into the stars. Tiny ships with no weapons, no shields worth mentioning, no hope. They are children playing in the territory of giants." The broadcast was being sent across multiple systems. Millions of beings from different species were watching. Some watched with fear, knowing they could be next. Others watched with curiosity. A few watched with hidden anger, having the but too afraid to act. On the hopeful Dawn turned to his sister. "The whole galaxy is watching. He's making an example of us." Nodded slowly. "He wants everyone to see what happens when you cross the Empire. He wants them to be afraid." "Are you afraid?" asked quietly. Looked at her brother. She remembered when they were children on Earth. They used to sit on their grandmother's roof and look at the stars. They would make up stories about the worlds they would visit someday. Now they were among those stars, and death was circling them in dark purple ships. "Yes," she admitted, "I'm afraid, but I will not let them see it." Reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was old and worn, covered in scratches and dents. "Do you remember this?" he asked. His eyes widened. "The beacon, Father's emergency beacon." "I never thought we would need it," said. "It's been in our family for 3 generations. Grandfather used it during the Mars Rebellion. Father used it during the Colony Wars. They always said the same thing. This beacon connects to channels that do not officially exist, channels that reach people who are very good at solving problems." Took the beacon from his hands. It was warm, like it was alive. "You think it still works?" "Only one way to find out." Activated the beacon. A small light blinked once, twice, then stayed steady green. A signal was being sent somewhere, to someone, maybe to no one at all. On the flagship, Admiral was enjoying himself. He walked around his bridge like a king in his throne room. His officers reported the status of the human ships. No weapons detected, minimal shields, engine power at basic levels. The humans were completely helpless. "This is almost too easy," said to his second in command, a female named. "I was hoping for at least a small challenge." Checked her console. "The humans have sent a distress signal, Admiral, but the nearest Terran military vessel is at least 4 days away at maximum speed." Waved his hand dismissively. "Let them call for help. By the time anyone arrives, these ships will be empty shells and their people will be in chains." "Should we begin boarding procedures?" "Not yet," smiled. "Let them wait, let them suffer. Fear is a weapon. The longer they wait, the more afraid they become. When we finally board, they will be too broken to resist." He looked at the camera drones, still recording his every word. "And the galaxy will see it all. They will see how the mighty empire treats those who wander into our territory uninvited. Back on the hopeful dawn, the colonists waited in the crowded intersections. Parents held their children close. Friends sat together in small groups, speaking in whispered voices. Some people prayed, others cried. A few sat in complete silence, staring at nothing. A little girl named tugged on her mother's sleeve. She was only 6 years old with bright, curious eyes. "Mom, why are the bad ships outside?" she asked. Her mother, a woman named, pulled her daughter onto her lap. "They want to scare us, sweetheart, but we will be okay. Will someone come to help us?" Looked at the ceiling, as if she could see through the metal and into the stars beyond. "I hope so, baby. I really hope so." In the darkness of space, 40 warships continued to circle the tiny human fleet. Admiral continued to broadcast his triumph to the galaxy, continued to stand strong on her bridge, showing no fear even though her heart was pounding. And somewhere in the void, a small green light blinked on a console aboard a ship that no one was supposed to know existed. The beacon's message had been received. Something was coming. The first hour passed slowly. Every minute felt like an hour. Every second felt like a minute. Watched the clock on her console and waited for the deadline to arrive. When it did, Admiral appeared on her screen again. "Your time is up, human," he said. "Have you prepared for surrender?" Stood tall. "I need more time, Admiral. Moving 2,000 people takes time. Our ships are not designed for quick transfers." Stared at her with his 4 cold eyes. "You are stalling." "I am being practical. If you want our people, you need to give us time to organize them, unless you want chaos during the boarding." The Admiral considered this. He was enjoying the game too much to end it quickly. "Very well, I will give you 3 more hours, but do not test my patience again, human." The screen went dark. Let out a breath he had been holding. "That was close. You bought us more time." "Time for what?" asked from her station. "No one is coming. We are alone out here." Looked at the beacon in her hand. The green light was still steady. "The signal is active. Someone received it." "But who?" asked. "The regular military is too far away. Who else is there?" Did not have an answer. The beacon was old technology from a different era. She did not know exactly who it reached or what they would do about it. All she could do was hope. On the flagship, Admiral was growing bored. He had expected the humans to cry and beg by now. Instead, their leader stood calm and collected, asking for more time like she was negotiating a business deal. It was annoying. He called to his second in command. "Have our fighters perform a close pass on the human fleet. Give them something to think about." Nodded and gave the order. 20 fighters broke formation and flew toward the colony ships. They came close, very close. So close that the people inside the human ships could see the weapons mounted under their wings. Then they pulled away at the last second, making the colony ships shake from the force of their engines. Inside the hopeful dawn, alarms blared and people screamed. The ship rocked from side to side. Children cried for their parents. Adults grabbed onto walls and railings to stay on their feet. In the cargo hold, a stack of supply crates fell and crashed onto the floor. A man named rushed to check if anyone was hurt. He found an elderly woman lying on the ground, her arm bent at a wrong angle. "We need a medic here," he shouted. A young doctor named Sora pushed through the crowd. She knelt beside the old woman and examined her arm. "It's broken. I need to set it." The old woman looked up at her with frightened eyes. "Are we going to die?" Sora took her hand gently. "Not today, grandmother. Not if I have anything to say about it." On the bridge, watched the fighters return to their fleet. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "Damage report." "Minor structural damage on Deck 7, reported. 3 injuries, nothing critical." Closed her eyes for a moment. 3 injuries. 3 of her people were hurt because an alien admiral wanted to have fun. The anger inside her was growing, but she pushed it down. Anger would not help them now. The next 2 hours were filled with small cruelties. They would fire warning shots near the colony ships. They would send threatening messages. They would fly their fighters close and then pull away. Each time the colonists would panic. Each time the fear would grow. Admiral watched it all with a smile. He was recording everything, sending it across the galaxy as entertainment. Look at the weak humans, the broadcast seemed to say. Look how they tremble. Look how helpless they are. In the common room of the hopeful dawn, a group of colonists had gathered around a small screen. They were watching the broadcast. They could see their own ships on the display, surrounded by the enemy fleet. They could hear laughing at them. A young man named stood up suddenly. We should fight back. An older man named shook his head. Fight with what? We have no weapons. We have tools, we have our hands, we have our will to live. That will not stop laser cannons, boy. We would all die in seconds. Slammed his fist against the wall. So we just wait. We just sit here and let them take us. We wait for help, a calm voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see standing there. She had come to check on the colonists. Help from who? Demanded. Your distress signal went out hours ago. No one is coming. Walked into the room. She looked at the faces around her. She saw fear. She saw anger. She saw despair. But she also saw something else. She saw people who had left everything behind to chase a dream. People who had been brave enough to travel across the stars. People who deserved better than this. I sent more than a distress signal, she said. I activated something old. Something from before any of us were born. I do not know if it will work. I do not know who will answer. But I believe someone will come. Believe, laughed bitterly. We are supposed to survive on belief. We have survived on less. Looked at him with steady eyes. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days on Earth, when humans had nothing but caves and stone tools, when every day was a fight for survival. We should have died 1,000 times, but we did not. We survived. We grew. We reached the stars. She paused and looked around the room again. Those aliens out there, they think we are weak because our ships are small. They think we are helpless because we have no weapons. But they do not understand us. They do not know what humans are capable of when we are pushed into a corner. The room was silent. People were listening. I cannot promise that help will come, continued. But I can promise that I will stand with you until the very end. And I can promise that if we survive this, we will tell this story to our children. We will tell them about the time we faced 40 warships with nothing but hope and courage. And our children will tell their children. And one day, the galaxy will know that humans do not break. She turned and walked back to the door. Before she left, she looked over her shoulder. Stay strong, watch over each other. That is how we survive. After she was gone, the room remained quiet for a long moment. Then slowly something changed. People stood a little, hands stopped shaking, eyes dried. Sat back down. He did not apologize for his outburst, but he nodded quietly to himself, put a hand on his shoulder. She is right, the old man said. We have survived worse. Our ancestors survived wars, plagues, disasters. They crawled through hell so we could reach the stars. The least we can do is stand tall while we wait. On the bridge, was staring at his console with wide eyes. He said when she returned, I am getting something. What is it? A signal, very faint, very far away, but it is getting stronger. Rushed to his side. On the screen, she could see a small blip moving through space. It was far from their position, but it was heading toward them. Is it Terran? She asked. Adjusted the scanner. I cannot tell. The signal is encrypted, very high-level encryption, military grade. Can you get any information at all? Worked the console for another minute. Then he looked up at his sister with a strange expression on his face. One ship, he said, just one. Frowned. One ship against 40. Maybe it is a scout. Maybe it is just checking the situation before calling for backup. But even as he said it, did not quite believe it. There was something about the way the ship was moving. It was not cautious. It was not careful. It was moving in a straight line at high speed, like it had somewhere to be and nothing was going to stop it. On the flagship, an alarm suddenly sounded. Looked at her sensors with confusion. "Admiral," she said, "we are detecting an incoming vessel." Turned from the window where he had been admiring his fleet. "What kind of vessel?" "Unknown configuration. It is moving very fast. Arrival in approximately 2 hours." Size. Checked her readings. Single ship, medium class, no larger than a heavy cruiser. Laughed loudly. "One ship. The humans send one ship to rescue 2,000 of their people." Other officers on the bridge joined in the laughter. One of them said the humans must be crazy. Another said they were probably coming to negotiate a surrender. "This is perfect," said, clapping his hands together. "We will destroy their rescue ship in front of the whole galaxy. We will show everyone what happens when you challenge the Empire." He looked at the camera drones, still floating around the bridge. "Are you recording this? Good. Make sure you capture every moment. When that human ship arrives, I want the entire galaxy to see it burn." Back on the hopeful Dawn stood at the window of the bridge. She could not see the incoming ship. It was still too far away, but she could feel something changing. The air in the room felt different, charged with something she could not name. "One ship," she whispered to herself. Came to stand beside her. "Do you think it is enough?" Did not answer right away. She thought about the beacon. She thought about her grandfather and her father. They had both used it in desperate times. They had both survived. "Our grandmother used to say something," she finally said. "When the old ones built that beacon, they did not connect it to the regular military. They connected it to something else, something older. She called them the Silent Fleet." The Silent Fleet. Ships that do not exist on any record, crews that have no names. They go where they are needed and do what must be done. No one knows how many there are. No one knows where they come from, but when the beacon calls, they answer. Looked at his sister with uncertain eyes. "That sounds like a legend, a story to make children feel safe." Smiled slightly. "Maybe it is, or maybe legends are just history that people forgot to write down." She turned back to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a single ship was racing toward them. In 2 hours, they would find out if the legend was real. The fleet continued to circle. The camera drones continued to record. The galaxy continued to watch. And in the cold darkness of space, a ship with no name and a crew with no records pushed its engines to maximum power. They had received a call. They were coming. The 2 hours passed faster than anyone expected. On the hopeful Dawn watched her scanner with growing anticipation. The single blip was getting closer, larger, clearer. Soon it would arrive and they would know their fate. Admiral had stopped his games with the colony fleet. All his attention was now focused on the incoming ship. He stood at the center of his bridge, arms crossed, a confident smile on his face. "Status report," he ordered. Checked her console. "The vessel will exit hyperspace in approximately 3 minutes, Admiral. All weapons are charged. Fighters are in position." "Good. I want all ships to focus fire on the human vessel the moment it appears. Give it no chance to even raise shields." "Understood, Admiral." The fleet adjusted their formation. 40 warships turned their weapons toward the point in space where the human ship would appear. It was massive overkill. One medium-class ship would be vaporized in seconds. Looked at his camera drones. "This is the moment, citizens of the galaxy. A foolish human ship is about to learn why no one challenges the Empire. Watch closely. This lesson will only happen once." The seconds ticked by. 10, 9, 8. On the hopeful Dawn, every person on the bridge held their breath, gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. stared at his screen without blinking. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A flash of light exploded in the darkness. Space itself seemed to tear open as a ship burst through from hyperspace. But something was wrong with the calculations. The ship did not appear where they expected. It appeared behind the fleet. "What?" shouted. "That is impossible. No ship can exit hyperspace with that level of accuracy." Before anyone could react, the human ship was already moving. It was not a regular cruiser. It was something different. The hull was black, so dark it seemed to absorb light. There were no visible markings, no identification numbers, no flags, just smooth, dark metal that seemed to flow like liquid. Admiral spun around to face the new threat. Turn the fleet, reposition, fire at will. But the human ship was already gone. It moved with speed that should have been impossible for its size. One moment it was behind them. The next moment it was somewhere else entirely. On the hopeful Dawn let out a laugh of pure shock. "Did you see that? Did you see how fast it moved?" Could not speak. She could only watch as the black ship danced between the warships like a shadow. A transmission crackled through the colony fleet's communication system. A calm voice spoke. It was a man's voice, steady and unhurried, like he was ordering coffee rather than facing 40 enemy ships. "This is captain of the Terran vessel. To all vessels, you are currently threatening Terran citizens under my protection. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from this sector." Admiral's face appeared on every screen in the area. He was laughing so hard tears were forming in his 4 eyes. 60 seconds, he wheezed. "You want us to retreat because of one ship, one tiny, insignificant human ship." Captain's voice remained calm. 55 seconds. "You are insane. Look around you, I have 40 warships. 40, you have 1. This is not a battle, human, this is a joke." 50 seconds. Stopped laughing, his face twisted into anger. "Very well, if you want to die quickly, I will grant your wish. All ships open fire." 40 warships unleashed their weapons. Beams of energy cut through space. Missiles launched from their tubes. Fighters swooped in with guns blazing. None of it hit. The moved like nothing anyone had ever seen. It rolled, twisted, and accelerated in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. Energy beams passed through empty space where the ship had been a millisecond before. Missiles exploded harmlessly in its wake. 40 seconds, Captain announced. Stared at her screen in disbelief. "Admiral, we are not hitting it. Our targeting computers cannot track it." "Increase fire rate. Use manual targeting. Do something." The fleet fired again and again. The black ship continued to dodge everything. It was almost insulting how easy it made the feat look. 30 seconds. Admiral slammed his fist against his command chair. "Why is it not shooting back? What is it waiting for?" As if answering his question, Captain spoke again. 25 seconds. "I strongly suggest you consider my offer, Admiral. I will never retreat from one human ship, never." 20 seconds. On the hopeful dawn, the colonists had gathered at every window. They watched the impossible dance happening outside. The black ship moved between the fleet like a ghost. People started to cheer every time it dodged another attack. Little pressed her face against the window in her mother's arms. "Mommy, look, the black ship is winning." Held her daughter close, tears streaming down her face. "I see it, baby, I see it." 15 seconds, Captain continued. His voice had not changed tone once. Admiral was breathing hard. His confidence was cracking. Nothing in his long military career had prepared him for this. One ship, one small, black human ship was making his entire fleet look like fools. 10 seconds. Admiral said urgently, "Perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal. We can regroup and—" "Silence, we do not retreat. We are the Empire." 5 seconds. The suddenly stopped moving. It came to a complete halt in the center of the formation. Every enemy weapon immediately locked onto it. Every ship prepared to fire. "Time is up," Captain said. The opened fire. Would remember what happened next for the rest of her life. She would tell the story to her children and her. She would describe it so many times that the words would become burned into her memory forever. The black ship did not fire beams or missiles like normal weapons. Instead, it released pulses of pure white light. The pulses moved faster than the eye could follow. They seemed to pass right through the shields like they were not even there. The first pulse hit a destroyer on the port side. The ship did not explode. It simply stopped. All its lights went dark. Its weapons went silent. It drifted lifelessly in space. The second pulse hit 2 cruisers at once. Same result. Complete shutdown. The third, fourth, and fifth pulses came so fast they seemed like one continuous attack. Ship after ship went dark. The fleet was being turned off like lights in a house. "What is happening?" screamed. "What is that weapon?" No one could answer him. No one understood what they were seeing. Captain's calm voice came through again. "This is a neural disruption pulse. It destroys all electronic systems on your ships. Life support will remain functional for 12 hours, enough time for rescue ships to arrive. Your crews will survive, but your weapons and engines are now permanently disabled." In less than 3 minutes, 18 warships had been reduced to floating metal boxes. Their crews were alive but completely helpless. They could not fire. They could not move. They could not do anything but drift. The remaining 22 ships began to pull back. Fear was spreading through their ranks like a disease. Admiral stared at his tactical display in horror. Half his fleet was gone, just like that. One ship had done this. "Admiral," said, her voice shaking, "we need to retreat. That weapon, we have no defense against it." Opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to do. The turned slowly until it was facing the flagship directly. Everyone on the bridge could see its dark hull through their windows. It looked like a predator studying its prey. "Admiral," Captain said, "I am going to ask you one more time. Will you withdraw from this sector?" His hands were trembling. His uniform was soaked with sweat. The cameras were still recording. The entire galaxy was watching him face this impossible defeat. He started to say. They charged its weapons again. The hull began to glow with that same white light. "Yes," shouted. "Yes, we will withdraw, do not fire." A wise choice. The weapons powered down. The white glow faded. The black ship turned gracefully and glided toward the colony fleet. On the hopeful dawn, people were crying, laughing, and hugging each other. Strangers embraced like old friends. Prayers of thanks filled the air. The nightmare was over. Watched the approach with tears in her eyes. The black ship was beautiful in its strange, deadly way. It had come from nowhere, saved them all, and done it without killing a single enemy. "This is Captain to the colony fleet," the calm voice said through their speakers. "You are safe now. Is anyone hurt?" Picked up her communicator with shaking hands. "Captain, this is leader of the colony fleet. We have some minor injuries but nothing serious. I do not know how to thank you." "No thanks are necessary. We received your beacon signal and responded. That is what we do." "The beacon, my grandmother's beacon." "Yes, the old channels still work. They will always work." Looked at the small device in her other hand. The green light had turned off. Its job was done. "Captain," she said slowly, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Who are you? I mean, who are you really? What is I have never heard of any ship like yours." There was a brief pause before answered. "We are the people who answer when no one else can. We go where we are needed. We do what must be done. That is all you need to know." It was not a real answer, but somehow it was enough. Understood that there were some secrets that existed for good reasons. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for saving my people." You are welcome. Now, I suggest you continue to New Eden. I will escort you to the edge of Terran space. After that, you should have no more trouble. As the fleet retreated into the darkness, leaving their disabled ships behind, the tiny human colony fleet began to move again. At the front was a black shadow guiding them toward their new home. The galaxy had been watching. The galaxy had seen. And the galaxy would never forget. Admiral stood alone in his quarters on the flagship. The room was dark except for the cold light of distant stars through the window. His medals lay on the floor where he had thrown them. His uniform jacket hung on the back of a chair, wrinkled and stained with sweat. He had never lost a battle before. He had never even come close to losing. For 30 years he had crushed every enemy the Empire had faced. His name was spoken with fear across a dozen star systems. He was Admiral, the Conqueror, the Iron Hand of. Now he was Admiral, the man who ran away from one human ship. The door to his quarters opened, walked in without being invited. She looked tired, defeated, smaller than usual. Admiral, she said quietly, the High Command has contacted us. Did not turn around. What do they want? They want a full report on the incident. They have seen the broadcasts. Everyone has seen the broadcasts. Of course they had made sure the whole galaxy was watching. He had wanted them to see his triumph over the weak humans. Instead, they had seen his humiliation. They had seen his mighty fleet get torn apart by a single ship. They had seen him beg for mercy. The broadcasts, he repeated bitterly. I gave them a show, just not the one I planned. Stepped closer. Admiral, you need to prepare. The High Council will want answers. They will want to know how this happened. How this happened, finally turned to face her. His 4 eyes were bloodshot and tired. I will tell you how this happened. We underestimated them. We thought humans were weak because they looked weak. We thought their small ships meant small power. We were wrong. He walked to his desk and pulled up a holographic display. It showed the frozen in the moment before it opened fire. Look at this ship, he said. No markings, no identification. It does not exist in any database we have, but it has technology that is decades ahead of anything in our fleet. How? How do the humans have this? Studied the image. Our intelligence reports have always said humans are a minor species. Limited technology, limited military, no real threat to the Empire. Our intelligence was wrong. Our intelligence is garbage. Waved his hand through the hologram, making it scatter into light fragments. Somewhere out there, humans have ships like this, weapons like this, and we had no idea. The communication panel on his desk beeped. A symbol appeared on the screen. The symbol of the High Council. They were calling. Took a deep breath and pressed the button to accept the call. 5 faces appeared on the screen. The 5 members of the High Council, the rulers of the Empire. They wore ceremonial robes and cold expressions. Admiral, said the one in the center. His name was High Chancellor, and he had the oldest, most tired-looking face of them all. We have reviewed the footage of your engagement with the human vessel. High Chancellor, I can explain. Be silent. His voice was like ice. You will speak when permitted, for now you will listen. Closed his mouth and stood at attention. Your fleet of 40 warships was defeated by a single human ship, continued. 18 vessels were disabled. 1,200 crew members are stranded in dead hulls waiting for rescue. Our most advanced targeting systems could not track the enemy. Our strongest weapons could not penetrate their defenses. He paused and let the words hang in the air. You turned this incident into a public spectacle. You broadcast it across multiple systems. You wanted the galaxy to fear us. Instead, the galaxy now laughs at us. Felt his stomach twist. High Chancellor, the human technology was unlike anything we have encountered. No one could have predicted. Your job is to predict, Admiral. Your job is to assess threats and respond appropriately. You saw a tiny fleet of unarmed colony ships and assumed you would have an easy victory. You played with your prey instead of finishing them quickly. You gave them time to call for help, and when help arrived, you were not prepared. Another council member spoke. She was younger, with sharp features and sharper eyes. The human ship used a weapon we have never seen before. Our scientists have examined the sensor data. They cannot explain how it works. They do not even understand the basic principles behind it. This suggests, said a third council member, that human technology is far more advanced than we believed. This single ship may be part of a larger fleet, a hidden fleet. Nodded slowly. The humans have deceived us. They have shown the galaxy their small colony ships and their simple freighters, but behind that mask they have been building something else, something dangerous. Found his voice again. Then we should attack them now before they reveal more of these ships. We should do nothing of the sort. Cut him off sharply. You have proven that our current forces cannot match this hidden fleet. An attack now would only lead to more humiliation, perhaps worse. Then what do we do? The council members looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. We do nothing, finally said. For now, we observe. We gather intelligence. We study their technology from a distance. And we pray to the ancestors that this single ship is an exception, not a rule. Could not believe what he was hearing. You want us to hide, to run from humans. We want you to be smart, Admiral, something you should have been from the beginning. Leaned forward. You are removed from command. Your replacement will arrive within 2 days. You will return to Prime and face a tribunal for your failure. The screen went dark before could respond. He stood in the silence of his quarters, staring at nothing. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. Everything he had built over 30 years had crumbled in 3 minutes. All because of one ship. Across the galaxy, the broadcasts of the battle had spread like wildfire. Every species with access to communication networks had seen what happened. They had watched Admiral mock the tiny human fleet. They had watched him laugh at them, threaten them, torture them with fear. And then they had watched a black ship appear from nowhere and change everything. On the planet, in the ruins of what had once been their capital city, survivors gathered around old screens to watch the footage. They had been conquered by the 10 years ago. Their world was now a mining colony, their people forced to work in the deep tunnels. A young female named watched the disable the warships. Tears rolled down her gray cheeks. "Did you see that?" she whispered to her companion. They actually ran. Her companion, an older male named, nodded slowly. The humans did what we could not. They stood against the Empire and won. Maybe, paused, afraid to say the words, maybe there is hope after all. On the trading station Nexus 7, merchants from a dozen species gathered in the main hall to discuss the implications. The had seemed unstoppable. Their fleet was the largest in the quadrant. Their weapons were the most powerful. No one had been able to challenge them. Until now. If the humans have more ships like that one, said a trader, the balance of power has shifted. One ship does not make a fleet, argued a merchant. This could be a unique prototype, an experiment. Or it could be the tip of an iceberg, they replied. Think about it. The humans have always seemed peaceful, weak, even. What if that was intentional? What if they wanted us to underestimate them? They had no answer. On Earth, in the quiet office of the Terran Defense Council, General Park sat behind her desk and reviewed the classified reports. She was an older woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had served in the military for 40 years. She knew things that most people did not. She knew about Captain, she knew about the silent fleet. A hologram appeared on her desk. It was himself, standing on the bridge of his black ship. "General," he said with a slight bow. "Captain, I have read your report. Well done. We followed standard protocol. Beacon signal received, threat assessed, civilians protected. General Park smiled slightly. You humiliated the Empire on galactic television. That was not exactly standard protocol. Admiral made that choice himself. He wanted an audience. I simply gave him a performance he did not expect. The Council is concerned. They believe your action may have revealed too much. They now know we have capabilities beyond what they imagined. Nodded. With respect, General, they would have found out eventually. Better they learn through a controlled demonstration than through a war they started. General Park considered this. You may be right. They are retreating, reassessing. Other species are taking notice. The balance is shifting. Is that not what we wanted? It is what we prepared for. What we wanted was to be left alone. But that was never realistic, was it? Remained silent. General Park stood and walked to her window. Outside, the city of Seoul sparkled in the night. Millions of people living their lives, unaware of the battles being fought in their name. Keep thee in the Orion sector until the colony fleet reaches New Eden, she ordered. After that, return to base for resupply. Understood, General. And Captain? Yes. Try to stay hidden for a while. We have made enough noise for 1 month. Allowed himself a small smile. I will do my best. The hologram flickered and disappeared. General Park returned to her desk and pulled up a map of the galaxy. It showed the territories of various empires and species. They controlled a large section of the eastern quadrant. Humans controlled a much smaller area in the west. But the map was incomplete. It did not show the hidden stations, the secret bases, the black ships that patrolled the spaces between stars. It did not show the true strength of humanity. We are small, General Park thought to herself, but we are not weak. We have never been weak. She closed the map and returned to her work. In the depths of space, they glided silently alongside the colony fleet. Captain stood at his bridge window and watched the hopeful dawn. Through the glass, he could see lights in the windows, families having dinner, children playing, normal life continuing despite everything that had happened. This was why he did his job. This was why the silent fleet existed, not for glory, not for power, but for those lights, for those families, for the chance that someday humans could live among the stars without fear. His first officer, a woman named, approached him. Captain, the fleet has fully withdrawn. They are heading back to their territory. Good. Maintain escort position until we reach the border. Understood, she paused. Captain, may I ask you something? Of course. When you gave Admiral the countdown, were you actually going to fire if he refused? Turned to look at her. His expression was unreadable. Do you know why the Empire fears us now? Because of our weapons. No, because they do not know if I would have fired. They do not know what we are capable of. They do not know our limits. He looked back out the window. And that uncertainty is the most powerful weapon we have. Nodded slowly, she understood. The colony fleet moved through the stars, small and fragile and full of hope. And next to them, a shadow kept watch. The payment had been made. The lesson had been taught. But the story was not over. New Eden appeared on the horizon like a blue and green jewel floating in the darkness. The planet was beautiful. Oceans covered most of its surface. Continents stretched across the middle like welcoming arms. White clouds drifted lazily through the atmosphere. Stood at the window of the hopeful dawn and felt tears forming in her eyes. They had made it. After everything they had been through, they had finally made it. It looks like Earth, said softly beside her. It looks like home, replied. The colony fleet had traveled for 2 more days after the battle. They had stayed with them the entire time, a dark guardian angel watching over them. Captain had not communicated much during the journey. He seemed to prefer silence, but his presence was enough. Knowing he was there made everyone feel safe. Now they were approaching the end of their journey. The border of Terran protected space was behind them. New Eden was ahead, and was preparing to leave. A transmission came through the bridge speakers. "Colony Fleet, this is Captain. We have reached the limit of my patrol zone. I must return to base." Picked up her communicator. "Captain, thank you for everything. I wish there was some way to repay you. Live well, build something beautiful on that planet. Raise your children, grow old with your families. That is payment enough. Will we ever see you again?" There was a pause before answered. "If you ever need us, use the beacon. We will come." "I understand. Safe travels, Captain." "And to you, goodbye." The turn slowly and accelerated into the darkness. Within seconds, it had disappeared from their sensors. It was gone, returning to whatever secret place it called home. Looked at the beacon still in her pocket. Such a small device, such a powerful connection. She would keep it safe for the rest of her life. The landing on New Eden was smoother than anyone expected. The 5 colony ships descended through the atmosphere and touched down on a wide plain near a lake. The grass was purple instead of green, and the trees had silver leaves, but it was still the most beautiful place most of the colonists had ever seen. When the ship doors opened, 2,000 people stepped onto their new world for the first time. Some fell to their knees and kissed the ground. Others simply stood and breathed the fresh air. Children ran through the purple grass, laughing and shouting with joy. Walked to the edge of the lake and looked at her reflection in the water. She looked older than she had a week ago. The stress of the journey had left marks on her face, but she was smiling. Came to stand beside her. "We actually did it." "We did. You know, when those ships surrounded us, I thought we were finished. I thought I would never see another sunrise." Nodded. "I felt the same way, but I could not show it. The people needed someone to be strong." "You were strong. You kept everyone together." Put his hand on her shoulder. "Mother and father would be proud." Touched the beacon in her pocket. "This little device saved us. Our ancestors saved us. The connections they built, the secrets they kept, the preparations they made, we owe them everything." The first few weeks on New Eden were busy and exhausting. Shelters needed to be built. Fields needed to be planted. Systems needed to be established. 2,000 people working together to create a new civilization from nothing. But they did it. Day by day, building by building, the colony took shape. What started as a collection of tents became a village. What started as a village would become a town. What started as a town would become a city. Was elected as the first governor of New Eden. It was not a title she had wanted, but it was one she accepted. The people trusted her. She would not let them down. One evening, about a month after landing, sat on a hill overlooking the growing colony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was peaceful, quiet, safe. A young girl climbed up the hill and sat down next to her. It was the same little girl who had asked her mother if someone would come to help them during the attack. Governor said, "Yes, little one. My mother said you saved us. She said you called the black ship." Smiled. "I did not save anyone. I just made a phone call. The captain of that ship did the saving." Thought about this for a moment. Will the bad aliens come back? Maybe someday, but we will be ready for them if they do. How do you know? Looked up at the stars appearing in the evening sky. Because we are human. We have been through hard times before. Wars, disasters, enemies who wanted to destroy us, but we always survive. We always come back. We always find a way. She pointed at a particularly bright star near the horizon. See that star? That is the direction of Earth, our home world. Billions of humans live there, along with many more on colonies throughout the galaxy. We may seem small and weak compared to some other species, but we are connected. When one of us is in trouble, others will come to help. That is our greatest strength. Looked at the star with wide eyes, like a family. Exactly like a family. Back on Prime, of the Empire, Admiral stood before the military tribunal. He wore simple clothes, stripped of his medals and rank insignia. He was no longer an admiral. He was just a failure waiting to be judged. The tribunal lasted 3 days. Witnesses, evidence was presented. The broadcasts of the battle were shown again and again. Each viewing was more humiliating than the last. In the end, the verdict was announced. Was guilty of incompetence, recklessness, and bringing shame upon the Empire. He was sentenced to exile on a remote mining colony for the rest of his life. As guards led him away, passed by a window overlooking the capital city, he stopped and looked at the buildings, the ships, the people going about their daily lives. All of them had seen his defeat. All of them knew his shame. A young officer walked past him in the hallway. The officer looked at with barely hidden contempt. "What are you looking at, old man?" the officer sneered. Grabbed his arm. The guards moved to intervene but spoke quickly. "Learn from my mistake, boy. Do not underestimate humans. Do not let their small ships and soft voices fool you. There is steel beneath their skin, fire in their hearts. They are not what they appear to be." The officer pulled his arm free. They got lucky. One ship with advanced technology, nothing more. "If you believe that, you are a fool," looked at him with tired eyes. "I thought I was the hunter. I thought they were prey, but I was wrong. They let us see what they wanted us to see. Their true power is hidden, and when it comes out..." He did not finish the sentence. The guards pulled him away, dragging him toward the transport that would take him to his exile. The young officer watched him go, then turned and continued walking. He did not believe the words of a disgraced admiral. The Empire was still the greatest power in the quadrant. One battle changed nothing. But as he walked, a small doubt crept into his mind. A tiny question that would not go away. What if the old man was right? On New Eden, months passed and seasons changed. The purple grass grew tall in summer and short in winter. The colony expanded. Bobbies were born. Gardens flourished. Life continued. Stood on the same hill where she had spoken with, now watching fireworks explode over the colony. It was the 1-year anniversary of their landing. The entire settlement had gathered to celebrate. Walked up beside her, holding 2 cups of something warm. "Tea," he said, handing her one. "Made from local plants, not bad actually." Took a sip and smiled. Not bad at all. They watched the fireworks in comfortable silence. Below them, people were dancing, singing, and enjoying the celebration. Children ran between adults, waving sparklers. Old couples held hands. Young couples kissed in the shadows. "Did you ever think we would make it this far?" asked. "Honestly, no. When those ships surrounded us, I thought it was over." "But it was not." "No, it was not," looked at her brother. "Because someone answered our call, because we are not alone in this universe, because humanity takes care of its own." A child ran up to them, breathless and excited. It was, now a year older and a year taller. "Governor, my teacher said next year we are going to build a school with a real roof instead of a tent. Is it true?" Laughed. "Yes, it is true. We are building many things next year. A school, a hospital, more houses. This colony is going to grow into something wonderful." His eyes sparkled. "And will we have a spaceship, a big one like the black ship that saved us?" "Maybe someday. When you are older, maybe you will be the captain of a ship like that." Stood very straight and saluted. "Captain of the New Eden Fleet." She ran off to rejoin her friends, laughing as she went. And watched her go. "The next generation," said. "They will grow up here. This will be the only home they know. And they will make it better than we ever could. That is how it works. Each generation builds on what came before." The last firework exploded in the sky, showering the night with golden light. The crowd below cheered and applauded. Reached into her pocket and felt the familiar shape of the beacon. It was cold and silent now, its purpose served. But she would never throw it away. It was a reminder. a connection to the past and a promise for the future. Somewhere out there in the darkness between stars, there was patrolling. Captain was watching. The silent fleet was ready. And if anyone ever threatened her people again, knew exactly what she would do. She would call for help. And help would come. Because that was what humans did. They mocked us, they called us tiny, they thought we were weak. They paid for their mistake. And they would never forget the lesson. Smiled and took another sip of her tea. The stars had never looked more beautiful.